Hello everybody, and welcome back to Hillside Forge. As you can tell, we already got the forge up and running. Today we're going to be working on making another chef knife. Now, the previous chef knife we did was a Japanese style inspired. This is going to be a more European inspired style blade with a more modern handle. I'm going to do a finger well, and I think I'm going to do a nice flare for the handle. That way we have good edge retention, or good handle retention. Yeah, not edge retention, because that's for cutting stuff. Grip retention for while you're cutting and everything like that. A good backstop for your hand. So the forge is already pretty hot. I am already pretty hot. Obviously, temperature-wise, not attractive. Probably a 7 out of 10. You know, on a good day, good lighting. I mean, Helen Keller would think I'd look good in a dark room. Anyway, that's not the point. So, let's get to work. We're using 1080 steel again. It's just my preferred steel with chef knives for right now. I'll probably venture out later in a couple other videos, but since I have 1080, we're going to use 1080. So, let's get some measurements on this bad boy and get to work. Okay, guys, let's go. Okay, ready? Break. Now it feels awkward again. I really got to work on this awkward stuff. Anyway, let's go.
First, I draw in the 2-inch slope for a preform, and then I draw the handle portion out, which is about 4 inches of handle, and then I make the line go up about a 1/2 inch, and I taper it all the way down just for how thin the steel is. I want to give myself some indentations and reference points to work off of, making those isolations of the handle and blade a lot easier to do. Now I use the belt sander to clean up all the harsh edges. I don't want any 90-degree corners. I want to roll everything over because I want least possible chance of a cold shut or a high stress point. So I'm just going to go through and round all those edges off, even the internal isolation point we did between the blade or ricasso and the handle. Starting off, what I'm going to do is begin to work my tip down. So using the preform, this is the spine of the knife. I'm going to strike in at about a 45-degree angle to further my tip, and then I'm going to switch to glancing blows as I get closer to the tip to try and make that steel come to an absolute point. It won't be a perfect sharp point, we'll grind that in later, but until then, this is how we forge it in. And then after that, it's just continually working the profile of the blade. Now I move on to isolating the handle. So I just put it on that gouge we already made and then continue to work from directly above that point over the corner of the anvil back. So I have a nice taper in between my choil, my ricasso, and my handle itself. I use the horn to begin to shape the finger grooves and better isolate the way I want the material. I'm going to leave it thick as I forge this because this style of handle I'm doing is going to require a little bit more grinding to get the exact shape I want. I'm on a time crunch, so I'm going to use the horn to move as much as I can and the grinder to clean up the rest. Now I'm going to switch to start doing the beveling of my blade. I work the entire blade on both sides evenly to get a nice even taper down from the spine of my blade to the actual cutting edge. This is so important for a chef knife, as most chef knives are a V style grind. So I just work both sides so I can account for the curving up of the blade to get that nice shape that I want. Now it's onto the grinder to clean up the profile and get everything nice and dialed in. Here I then switch to the 1x30 just to better get that isolation point or the finger groove in between the handle and the ricasso. Mainly because the 1x30 wheel is a little bit smaller, so I can get in there a little bit tighter. This is not the final shape, but it's going to get to the point where I can move my hand appropriately over the swell that we made and then account for a better finger groove later with a small sander that I have. I think it's a 1/2 inch by 8 or something like that. Forgive me for not knowing the exact size of the sander. It's just your basic fine-tuning sander from Harbor Freight.
Alright guys, so there you have it. There is the first episode completed of forging out a European style chef knife. I think so far the build is coming along really nicely. It wasn't my original design, however, I really start to like how this all came together. I like the about 1 inch gap here for the bolster area. I feel like it gives a nicer grip for a pinch grip cut. I work in a kitchen when I'm not in my shop. So I prefer cutting in a method that's similar to this. I don't like to cut like back here like a very stiff type deal. So for me, this style of handle works really well because of how it tends to grip. But I'm really happy with this piece so far. I'm excited to see where it goes. I did forge thick and grind thin. That was a little bit of a time restraint on my part. However, I like the freedom it gives me to be a little bit more creative. I like to forge things to shape. My favorite thing to do is forging. I honestly hate grinding, but it's kind of part of the job, so we got to do it. And with this, just to make sure everything stayed straight and I had the right thicknesses, I left it a little thick, as opposed to forging it all the way down to the proper finishes, the proper final exact measurements of it all. Anyway, so yeah. I had a lot of fun with this build so far. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode. Thank you for joining me today, and if you liked what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe, and please feel free to share my videos. And also, just let me know if you enjoy what you're seeing. If you want to see something else done, let me know. I'd love to make more videos for you guys. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.